Okay, hear me out. Acacia isn't bad. Now, before you all come at me, just hear me out. Yes, it is a very aggressive orange, but that doesn't make it bad. Actually, Acacia matches with a lot more blocks than you realize. Another thing to keep in mind is location. Acacia builds do really well in arid climates. For example, you wouldn't put this build in the middle of a forest, but in a badlands or desert biome, it would fit right in. In this build, I made it drastically orange just to show you guys that strong colors aren't necessarily bad. I used tough cobble and andesite for the base, and then acacia logs for the support beams and acacia stairs for the roof. For the walls, I did terracotta and orange concrete using terracotta as accents within the build as a sort of design in the walls, along with gray glass for the windows. I want to go through some builds with each wood type, so please put in the comments which wood you'd like to see next. Jungle wood. I always love this wood for very earthy and naturey builds. For this build, I imagine it as if this was once a giant tree cut down and made into a home from the stump left behind. I used different colored blocks within the jungle wood to make it have more depth, and then used moss as the roof and stripped jungle wood as outlines for the windows. This build was a little difficult for me as I usually do a lot more geometric builds and have a hard time doing more flowy and organic builds, but I thought this would be the best time to try it out. I probably could have added more color to the build looking back at it, but I also like this monochromatic look, as if this build could be hidden in jungle where no one could find it. Also, looking back at this, does anyone else think this kind of looks like a snail? It's giving me snail vibes. We got birch, the most cottagecore of all the trees in my opinion. I started with stripped logs as the base, and then I started with white terracotta as the walls, then decided that was a terrible decision and used green concrete instead. I did some lattice shapes on the walls to try and add some more detail, but I'm not sure if that was too much. Along with the roof that I did with full birch, and I'm not sure if it's too much or not, but I like it anyways. Of course, as per usual, I had no plan for the back, so I just kind of vibed with it, and because of that, the build ended up being super skinny, but I kept it because I thought it was really funny, just going around the side and just seeing a super thin house. So far, we've done birch, jungle, and acacia. Which wood would you like to see me build with next? Spruce, I think, is probably the most well-liked wood out of all the trees, just seeing the comments, but my favorite wood is actually a combination of spruce logs and dark oak planks. I didn't use that in this build, of course, because this is a spruce-only build. I started by placing a structure before adding the walls and windows. Also, you know how people say hindsight is 20/20? The end stone was probably not the best color combination with the green roof, but you know, hindsight 20/20 as always. I also swapped out the colors to see if there was any better combination, but honestly, the Wii shopping music plays through my head as I build, so the color combos I come up with are always a little bit wild. Please comment what wood type you'd like to see me build with next. Warped wood. While you guys probably thought I was going to do some more Halloween themed builds, I ended up going for a townhouse type build. Did I make this build as blue as possible? Yes I did. Do I regret it? No. I will use as much blue as I can for no other reason than my own good vibes. I did a slight gray-green gradient as the base into the prismarine with stripped wood as the border and unstripped as detail for the windows. I used deep slate for the roof and copper as borders for a lot of the build. For the back, I went a lot more simpler because time management was out the window and I was running out of time before I needed to be somewhere. But I really like this build and maybe I'll go back to it and add more detail. But for right now, I hope you guys just enjoy. Again, comment which wood you would like to see me build with next. For the crimson wood, I did another townhouse build. Can you tell that I've been really interested in townhouses lately? Okay, I live in the middle of nowhere. Houses lined up like this just seem so interesting. I used crimson wood for the outlines of the build and concrete for the walls. I also used chains and anvils for the windows because I wanted to try out a different kind of aesthetic. I also used glazed terracotta, and does anyone else have the hardest time placing those blocks in the right direction? I had a really fun time with this build, and again, please comment the next wood you'd like to see me build with next. Dark oak, one of my favorite woods. I built a house with a reference that I can't show you because it's just a house I drive by every single day, and I think it's a very cool looking house. I use the same color palette as the house with dark walls and red windows and accents. Of course, I added amethyst because amethyst is just such a cool looking block, especially with dark oak or any dark block, I think. I had a lot of fun with this build by just using a reference of a house that I see almost every day, and just making a wonky looking house with different angles like this is always such a fun thing to try out. As always, please comment the next wood type you'd like to see me build with, and the most liked comment will be what I do next. It's time for the most classic wood of them all, oak, a staple of the Minecraft community. I'm not exactly sure what the theme of this build is. It might be considered cottagecore, but also I have zero clue. Anyways, I went for an extremely symmetrical build, literally using World Edit to copy and paste parts to make sure it was all exactly the same. I used stripped and unstripped oak for a lot of the build with cobblestone for the base, and I started with bricks for the roof, but then ended up swapping those blocks out multiple times to find a better fit color-wise. I had a lot of fun with this build, even though roofs are the bane of my existence. This was was the last wood type other than mangrove, so when that one comes out, I'll do a video on it too. Mangrove wood has finally come out, which means I can finally finish my series that I started months before mangrove was released into the game. Anyways, I went for a type of mud and brick hut in the middle of a swamp, using mangrove for the accent blocks and the stilts in the water, bricks and mud for the walls and roof, and red stained glass for the windows. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this new wood variant, but tell me in the comments, what blocker item were you most excited for in the 1.19 update?